For the average Mormon, how much time do you think is spent over a lifetime on church life? Things like ministering assignments, temple attendance, general conference. Well, it was actually pretty easy to break it down, so let's get into it. For Sunday church services, you've got about 3 hours. Even though the church recently changed it to just 2 hours, you've got an extra hour at least of getting to church, getting settled in, chatting before and after. A lot of people do choir before and after church. So over a lifetime, that's about 12,480 hours. There's also 2 general conference sessions a year, which take about 12 hours per year. And over a lifetime, that's about 960 hours. Now, if you're in an auxiliary like Young Women's Presidency or Primary Presidency, you're going to have at minimum 2 hours a month on presidency meetings. I feel like this is being pretty modest based on the presidency meetings that I've participated in, especially considering that you'll usually also have in-service meetings, which I'm not calculating. But this is about 1,500 hours over the course of an adult lifetime. Now, if you're serving with the youth in young men's or young women's, this is going to be about 8 hours monthly. Again, this is a little on the modest side because I did not calculate in things like firesides, special conferences, or even class presidency meetings. And that will calculate to about 960 hours if you serve in that capacity for like 10 years of your life. Now let's talk about ministering assignments. Visiting teaching is what they used to call it. Based on the average visiting teaching route, I would spend about 5 hours a month on visiting teaching. And depending on what you're doing for your preparation, that could take another 4 hours. Shopping for little trinkets or treats or making goodies to take to the sisters, I would say 4 hours is probably fair. Now, if you had visiting teaching routes like mine, you might also be driving 30 minutes one way to the bishop's storehouse to pick up food for people. You might also be helping people with rides for their kids, taking sisters to doctor's appointments. Okay, I didn't factor any of that in. So over 65 adult years, you'd spend about 3,100 hours in your ministry. If you served a 2-year mission, that's pretty self-explanatory. 2 years for the boys, 18 months for the sisters. Now, if you're in a bishopric calling, and let's say that that calling lasted for 5 years, you've got about 12 hours a week spent on your calling. And if you have that calling for 5 years, that's 3,100 hours. If you've been a bishop, you're likely spending more than 12 hours a week on your calling. Next up, scripture study and prayer. This is something that devout members of the church do daily, and most spend around 30 minutes a day. Over the course of a lifetime, this equals out to about 14,600 hours. Next up, family history. And I gave this just 30 minutes a week because most people don't even start this until they're in their older years. Over the course of a lifetime, this would equate to about 2,000 hours. Now, based on the calculations that chat gave me, this all equals out to about 62,412 hours, which averages out to about 7 years for each member of the LDS faith.